After I get my exposure correct, you go with the flow. And the flow might happen like this. It might be a bang, bang, bang type thing, and you have to be there. You have to be down the aisle when the bride's coming down the aisle. Then you have to be in a certain, and some weddings don't allow you to stand wherever you like. For instance, it would be ideal if while they're facing the person marrying them, the preacher or whoever might be marrying them, it might be ideal to get behind them or to get behind the preacher so you have a good view at their faces. Now, some weddings won't allow you to do this. Some weddings say you have to stand here, this is where you can stand, this is where you can photograph, you can't move from here, you can't use flash. In those type of situations, you want to explain to your customer that the quality of your photographs might not be as good as they could be if you were able to get to the different areas in the chapel and if you were able to use your on-camera flash. Okay? It's important to explain these to people because you don't want them to expect something that you're not able to capture. For instance, if they don't allow you to use flash in the ceremony, then if you explain to the bride and groom that, hey, I can't use flash during the ceremony, so if you have a dark chapel, your pictures will be dark. Okay, because lenses do not create light, they pick up light, and if there's no light to pick up, then it is what it is. You have to deal with that. That's why you have flash, to create light. So what I like to do is I like to just go through everything and make sure that I have a good idea of what I'm getting into. I don't want to get into something and then they say, well, you can't use flash, and then I didn't mention this to the customer, and then when they get their photographs, they're darker than they wanted, or they might have bad angles because you weren't allowed to get to certain places in the sanctuary. So explaining things to people goes a long way. Honesty is the best policy. If you're honest with people and you tell them, hey, look, your pictures are going to look bad if I can't do X, Y, and Z, then 9 times out of 10 they'll understand and you'll serve yourself well by doing so. Another thing that you would like to do as a wedding photographer is, as you set up the contract for the wedding, you need to ask about photos that they would like that might not be conventional photos. For instance, there might be an uncle that's in town or a grandma that they might never see again or something like that, and they might want pictures of these certain people at certain times. So it's best when you're writing your contract to define these certain photographs that they would like, so there's no questions and no problems in the end. Okay? Another thing about wedding photography is experience. Everything comes with experience. Your first wedding is not going to be your best wedding, and the reason why is because you're going to learn and you're going to progress. You might be a great photographer. You might know how to use your camera. You might know how to set your camera. You might know how to do everything there is with photography, but just the experience of the wedding alone is something new for you. Therefore, you might have problems capturing certain images and being in certain places at certain times because you just haven't done it before. And that's okay. It's usually good if you're working with another photographer on your first couple of weddings so that you can get the flow of things. I wouldn't suggest on your first wedding doing it by yourself and billing yourself as a great photographer, because you are going to mess up. That is a guarantee from me to you. Okay? My first wedding, I did great. They loved the photographs. But at the same time, looking back on that wedding, there are photographs that I know I could have taken that I missed, that with the experience I have now wouldn't have been a problem. But like I said, all that comes with experience and with time. Candid shots are very important in wedding photography. Okay? Not especially in wedding photography, because you're not going to have time to pose people. Okay? So getting a shot of, say, the bride and the groom sharing a glance at each other or a smirk at each other are the photographs that they cherish in the end. You know, and that's what it's all about. You want to create something that when you give it to your client, when you give the photographs to your client, they look back on it and remember the moment exactly as it was. Okay? I like a lot of high key photography with my weddings. High key means bright, a lot of bright, the main light source being bright. And the reason I like high key photography with weddings is because it gives it a sort of glow, a sort of princessy dreamland look that a lot of brides like. Okay, like for instance, I took some photographs for a wedding a couple months ago, and in the high key style, and the bride loved them. Everybody else was saying, well, they're too bright, they're too bright, they're too bright. But when the bride seen them, she loved them. She thought they were fantastic because they made her look like a princess, like a fairy tale or something. And that's how she wanted to remember her wedding. So every bride is different, every groom is different, every wedding is different, and every situation is different.